Tennessee has beaten the Bills, the Chiefs, the Colts twice, and the Rams. So out of any team in the AFC, the Titans have the most impressive wins.
No doubt.
And the win against the Chiefs was a dominant one. Against the Rams was a dominant one. Against the Bills, it was a great game.
It was a great
game. Against the Colts, the first game was dominant. The second one was closer, but they still pulled away with the win. They beat the Rams 28-16, as we mentioned earlier. They're now 7-2. They sit atop the AFC. This wasn't an offensive game, though. This was a defensive game. Tannehill threw for 142 yards. And Foreman, McNichols, Peterson, that trio rushed for 69 yards. And that is their fewest yards in a win since Week 3 in 2012 and a 44-41 win against Matthew Stafford and the Lions. So the last time the Titans have ran for 69 for this less yards, like fewest yards, they beat Matthew Stafford on the Lions.
Wow, that's ironic.
Yeah. And it wasn't a game where Matthew Stafford came back. Actually lost 44-41. He lost a close game.
Ooh, okay.
I'm just letting you know. But
damn, losing that 44-41, that hurts.
Trash bag.
Defense is trash.
In 2019, Tennessee was my sleeper team in the AFC, and they went on to go to the AFC Championship, and they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl that year. The very next year in 2020, I don't know what it was about them, because I felt like all the pieces were there for them to have even more success. I mean, they had Harold Landry still. They had Jeffrey Simmons. They had Jadeveon Clowney, who was supposed to change their defense at least somewhat. Like, they had the players. Like, they had players. Adoree Jackson was there. Kevin Byard was still there. Zion Brown was still there. Rashawn Evans was still there. They had all their guys. They only really lost Logan Ryan, and Jarrell Casey really didn't even play. But their defense was one of the worst last year. Like, if you just look at what they did last year they had 19 sacks through 16 games last year, which was one of the worst in the league. I think it was the worst. This year, they have 23 sacks, and they're tied for 6th. They create some of the most pressure in the league, and it's because Jeffrey Simmons has taken that next step. I think he's the second best defensive tackle in football right now. Harold Landry has been great. Bud Dupree has been okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Danico Autry has been amazing in the run. And Kevin Byard has been playing like the best safety in football. And before the season, even when they lost Kenny Vaccaro, I said they'll be fine. Amani Hooker's a good safety. Janoris Jenkins has played really well. And even like their corners, you don't really know them, like Elijah Molden, Chris Jackson. You don't know their corners. Nobody knows them, but they played great. Like against the Rams, it's not like Tennessee was disguising what they were doing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of cover 3, but it was a lot of man-to-man. And these corners held up against Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. It's not like they were not getting destroyed by them.
I feel like
they held them to quiet games.
A lot of that came from the pressure that they were getting.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. But Stafford can get rid of the ball quicker if his guys are open. And his guys weren't open. And now they're getting Christian Fulton back. And Christian Fulton put on a clinic versus DK Metcalf. Had him in jail that game again when they faced off. So Christian Fulton, now that he's coming back, this team looks better. And I think, I'm not sure if I said it in a couple podcasts before, but I said I trust Tennessee's defense more than their offense. Tannehill has taken a step back this season. He hasn't been what he's been last year.
He's been a manager, a big manager this season.
Even in that game versus the Rams, I mean, he had 142 yards. He wasn't outstanding. And in fact, like, you know, he's, like you said, he's just managing the game. But man, I think the Titans, it's really hard to deny that they're not the best team in the AFC. Not only record-wise, but just in terms of the faith you have in this team. Because time and time again, they're proving everybody wrong, and it's their defense that's leading the way.
They haven't, and you know what's crazy? Because they walked into the season, you know, when they got Julio Jones, people were like, oh my God, this is going to be one of the best offenses in the league. You know, it was a big splash. But even then, you look at this year, like you said, Tannehill hasn't been great. A.J. Brown hasn't been great and hasn't been on the field as consistent as you want him to be. Julio has been in and out the lineup, and he doesn't look like the same Julio. The only consistent on offense has been Derrick Henry, and he's out for a couple weeks. That defense has shown people that they're better than what we expected. And for that, they've knockdown wins against the Colts. They've completely dominated their division, and they've also beat other teams within their conference. And I think that goes to show that Mike Vrabel is a really, really good coach, and it goes to show that this team is better than expected. Now, do I trust them come playoff time? It's tricky because, you still got guys like Josh Allen. If Pat Mahomes get into the playoffs, I don't know if I can say I fully trust somebody over him. You still got Lamar in Baltimore. It's tough, but I would say they do right now look like the best team in the AFC because of the fact of teams who they beat and how much injuries have hit this team, and they're still able to pull out wins. The adversity is real for them, but at the same time, I don't know if I can trust them, because you walk into a playoff game, and if I see them and the Chiefs, it would be hard for me, even as much as the Chiefs have looked, how bad that they look, it would be hard for me to say I'm going to pick the Titans over the Chiefs just because one game, playoff time, like you said, who do you trust? I would trust Mahomes in that situation. So, it just depends on matchups, and it depends on the playoffs. But right now, the Titans do look like the best.
Derrick Henry's coming back.
I figured he would.
Yeah, he's coming back. They say he'll be back by the playoffs.
I did see that.
Is he? So he's done for the season. He's come back for the playoffs.
No, they're saying he could come back for the regular season.
Yeah,
they might as well just wait to the playoffs. Damn,
I don't know. You kind of want him to get his feet wet.
Yeah, I mean, damn, he's about to have 2K again.
Yeah,
he definitely was on his way.
That's
to
crazy. That just ruined his whole run.
No, not even.
Nah, like his 3-year run.
I know what you're saying, but if he comes back and he's like that in the playoffs,
his 3-year run, he would have had like 5,000, 6,000 yards.
Yeah, something stupid.
But like you mentioned, I really think that their defense has been way better than their offense. And Ryan Tannehill hasn't been the same. And I agree. Before the season with Julio, with AJ, I thought they would pass the ball more. I thought Anthony Firsker was going to probably step up, but it's really been Joff Swaim. He's been the one to really step up. He's been their best tight end so far. They have to involve Julio more. And it's not like Julio is not open. Julio is open. And the one play that stuck out to me is, I don't know if you guys saw this in the game, but Tannehill threw the ball to Chester Rogers, and he was like cracked from the back. Like he got hit hard as hell. Like he got hit hard as hell. And Chester Rogers, like he was injured. He was down for a while. That's how hard the hit was. And on that play, Julio was wide open on a post in the end zone, wide open. And Tannehill just missed him. And he just didn't see him because he thought the safety was going to lurk that way. But
he had time?
He did have time.
Okay.
But that's what I think separates Tannehill from at least the elite quarterbacks, because in that coverage, I believe it was cover 3. And because it's cover 3, a post is not supposed to be open on cover 3 because there's 3 defensive backs back. Mm-hmm. But on that play, because Tannehill was looking at Chester Rogers on a shallow cross, the safety lurked up, and Julio was wide open. And great quarterbacks move safeties with their eyes and make that throw. And Tannehill had moved the safety, but he didn't make the throw. So Julio has been open, and I think he's still a great receiver. He just needs that volume. He needs more targets. And, I'm not impressed with their offense. I think their offensive line gets beat a lot. I'm not impressed by their offensive line. A.J. Brown, he drops passes in crucial situations. He's a playmaker, there's no doubt. He's an elite player. But he drops passes in crucial situations right now since Derrick Henry's gone. They don't have a true running game, even though I am impressed with McNichols. I like McNichols a lot. But they're really going to have to rely on their defense to win games. And that's really what it's going to be. Unless Tannehill somehow steps it up and he's able to be even better, they're going to have to rely on their defense to win games, because if it wasn't for their defense creating 2 turnovers that led to scores, this game is a very close game.
I'll tell you why I'm surprised, truthfully, about this defense and why I've had such a tough time gauging the Titans. They're still one of the worst total points defense. It's just a tongue twister.
No, they're not.
Not
no more.
After this week, for sure. You're right, 100%. But prior to this week, they were like bottom 5 in total points given up.
No, they were like 23rd. They were 22nd. They're like a top 16
We
defense.
spoke about it on the podcast. That's why I remember.
That was a couple weeks ago.
No, that was this past weekend or this past episode that we spoke. That's what I'm saying. So I've had a tough time gauging that because they've given up so much points. But then this week they go and they put on a defensive showcase that you just have to do nothing but give them their props.
But they've done it before, though. Like against the Chiefs, they they put on a defensive showcase.
But the thing about the Chiefs that's different from the Rams is that the Chiefs offense right now, it's schemable because all you have to do is cover over the top. That seems to be the way that you can stop the Chiefs. But right now, from what I've seen from the Rams, I haven't seen much of stopping the Rams right now. But what they did was pressure Matthew Stafford, force him to go outside the pocket. But once he went outside the pocket, he had success. But once he was staying in the pocket, he had minimal time to have his reads, to survey the field, and that's what gave them their success. But once he started to get outside the pocket, that's when Matthew Stafford started to get a little bit more comfortable. I think that the difference, or why I find it difficult to go all in on them, is because I've seen them give up a 30-point game to the Colts. I get it, it's in division, of course. I've seen them give up points to a Buffalo Bills. I've seen them give up a ridiculous.
Bills, though.
No, for sure. But at the same time, we just saw the Bills score only 6 points against the Jags.
What about 27 against the Jets? They gave up 27 to the Jets.
A lot of that was because our defense was great that day. Honestly. And Zach Wilson was
I was about to say, but what did the defense have to do with Zach Wilson putting on a show?
I mean, you have a bit of a point, but I just don't really take those games into account much. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but like versus Buffalo, just because Buffalo only scored 6 points against the Jaguars, it doesn't mean that I'm not impressed by their offense.
I understand. No, I agree. I'm
not
impressed.
Buffalo can put up 30 on any team.
Almost any team. Almost any team.
On their best day, you can't stop them. Mm-hmm. I really think you can't stop Buffalo. You can't stop Buffalo. And a lot of the scores really have to do with how fast teams are scoring. Like if the Titans score pretty fast, then, you know, you're going to have more of those drives. You're going to have more drives to really go off that. And the Jets game, I mean, Tennessee, I mean, what can I say, man? Like it just they had no offensive weapons. They were going 3 and out a lot. They weren't doing anything on offense, so it was giving the Jets a lot of opportunities.
See, but that's when you rely on the defense, and they let them down.
But the defense didn't let them down, though.
To a degree. But listen, Zach Wilson lit them up.
Zach Wilson made big-time plays, but he also missed a lot of plays that could have cost the Jets the game.
I understand. That's
true. For example, on that boot to the end zone, the defense stopped that. And the Jets had to settle for a field goal because of that. Yep. You know, so they stopped them in crucial situations. It's not like they didn't. It's that the offense couldn't get anything going. They didn't have any receivers that game. And Derrick Henry, even though on the box score it shows something completely different, for the most part, wasn't dominant. Like the Jets were holding him, you know, in check a little bit, even though he almost rushed for 200. And like the Jets, the entire first half, their offense didn't get going at all. Like I stopped watching the game because they didn't get going. The Jets were a second half team at that point, so I'm not holding that game over the Titans because I've seen them blow out the Chiefs. I've seen them do this to the Rams, and the Rams, the most efficient offense in football, and that pressure they created, it wasn't by way of blitzing a lot. Yeah, they just rushed 4. And Jeffrey Simmons, you couldn't block him. You really couldn't block him in that game. It's not like they were playing man in cover 3 mostly the entire game, and they took all the big plays away from the Rams. Like, you know, for me at least, I think it's more impressive that I give the Titans more credit for making the Rams work that hard on offense, making the Rams struggle, than I discredit them for losing to the Jets. Okay. Like, because they've beaten as many great teams as you can beat.
I agree.
Or as many good teams as you can beat. Like,
I agree.
No other team in the AFC has that resume of wins.
I guess my worry is that this offense continues to just be a game managing type offense, especially without Derrick Henry, and that the defense has a bad day. Like it's shown that it's capable of having a bad day, and the offense is not able to pick up the slack, and they can get picked. I mean, I think that just speaks more so to the conversation we're having that the AFC is such a wild card right now that we really don't know what's going to happen.
So do you trust Ryan Tannehill to make those big plays come playoff time?
Ryan Tannehill's not a bad quarterback by any stretch of the means. I think he's a solid ball player for sure. I just think that
where are you going with this?
It's just is Derrick Henry going to be on the field? Because reports right now is that Derrick Henry is going to be here.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's going to be on the field.
If Derrick Henry's on the field, I trust Tannehill because Derrick Henry opens up the offense so much with what he can do.
I honestly think that the reason why the Titans started out slow and why they haven't found the groove offensively yet is because everybody's still adjusting to each other. This is a team that has brand new coaches, defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, hired him in house.
I was gonna say O-line's been a mess all season.
It takes a while for this guy to implement his scheme and for players to buy in and understand their assignments. And now we're seeing that things are clicking. And when things are clicking, this defense is great.
So,
and offensively, it's great when it's clicking.